Good morning. Let's get this thing fired up. Let's talk about some things that we want to kind of pay attention to. So, welcome. I'll let you guys kind of jump on here. Happy Monday, and I hope everybody had a good weekend. And so, there's been some things I put into the group, and I want you guys to kind of start paying attention. Obviously, we have lots of time, but I want to start kind of putting ourselves in a position where we can succeed here. And part of it is, identifying who our reps are, who our senators are, and then having the ability to contact them directly and kind of start, putting this puzzle together. And so what it looks like. So we have a couple bills that I posted in the group earlier. So I posted the actual oldest page. I also put the PDF to the text of the bill so you guys can see that firsthand. And so what I'm recommending here is now we start kind of contacting our reps and identifying our reps. I'll put a link in there so you guys can find out, depending on where you live in the state, who your reps are. And so we want to start contacting, we want to either give them a call or we can, send them a voice or excuse me, an email. And so if you guys can hear this, please let me know. Hey, Paul, how you doing, buddy? And so I'm glad you guys are tuning in. So obviously, this is where we build bridges. Okay. So we're building bridges up there in Salem. And this is how we get our voices be heard. And so obviously the worst bill of them all is HB 3075. And that's, basically Measure 114 2.0. And so that's one we have to be very, very mindful of because that's a bad bill. And so right now that's hasn't moved. And a lot of these bills that I'm going to name off here, they were filed pre-session. So what that means is they were introduced by the senator or the representative before the session even started. Okay, so this is, typically what they're going to do is they have their pet projects, and what they'll do is they'll go ahead and introduce that. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in, and so what they'll do is they'll introduce them before the session starts, and they'll have their place in line. And then what they'll do is they'll get the first reading. If it starts on the Senate side, it'll get on the house on the Senate floor. It'll get a reading, and at that point, excuse me, choking here. Excuse me. So as soon as it gets a reading, then it'll get assigned to a committee if it moves on. Excuse me. And so what that looks like is, hey, Derek, like the name, good morning. And so what that looks like is a lot of these, because they're dealing with laws and modifications to laws, they typically are going to start out in the Judiciary Committee. And so that's what I've noticed that all of these bills that I'm going to talk about today have started in the judiciary process. That's where they're going to, they'll get the reading on the floor, then they go to the Judiciary Committee. And typically what's going to happen there is that's when they're going to be scheduled for a work session. And that's where the committee hearing, the members there are going to read it. They're going to figure out they need to make any modifications to the law. And so that's where we're going to have our first crack at it is in the Judiciary Committee. And some of these, lucky for us, like I live in, Floyd Prozansky's district. He's my senator. He's on the Judiciary Committee. So I can, as his constituent, I have a little bit more weight because, my vote matters in his district. Right. So that's kind of the thing that I advocate here is we identify, who's on the Senate Judiciary Committee. And then if we're in their constituent, then we contact them directly. And that's how we have our voices be heard there. And so that's kind of our first shot at it. Most of these bills, there's going to be a financial impact to the state budget. And so they would probably have to go from the Judiciary Committee to what's called Ways and Means. And so with the Ways and Means Committee, they're the ones that are going to evaluate the financial impact of the state. We're talking about House Bill 3075. There's going to be a tremendous financial burden and impact to the state of Oregon. So, there's going to be a couple ways for us to shut this thing down. Obviously, bringing up the fact that it's going to cost, $50 million just to implement, right? That these are numbers that I'm using for Measure 114. This one is very similar to Measure 114. So that's where I'm just going to use those ballpark numbers as a way to communicate with the committees. And so from there, we have Senate Bill 429. That's another bad bill. And I don't have the text in front of me. And so obviously I'm going to just name off these numbers. And then what I'll do is I'll support all the information in the comments of this video. And so we have Senate Bill 429. And we also have Senate Bill 696. The next one's going to be Senate Bill 698. And then there's a Senate Bill 697, right? So they're going to be in order here, starting on the Senate side. Okay. So it's going to start in the Senate. And then if it passes that chamber, then it would go on to the House and go through the process over there and do the same thing. And so House Bill 3075 is starting in the House side. So it would have to clear the House before it goes over the Senate. And we're going to have multiple cracks at this. Obviously, we still have until the 1st of July. So just be aware, this is going to be a marathon. This is a long session for us. And so that's where we have to be aware and just start with little bits and pieces, right? We don't have to freak out. We don't have to overwhelm ourselves. Obviously we want to stay up to date on what's happening, but we still have time. And that's why I kind of made a post earlier about, the fires are smoldering. It's like, we don't have an actual forest fire right now. We have, we're just getting started. And so, but it's important that we stay up to date. And so how we stay up to date here is we sign up for the email alerts. So you go on the pages that I shared into the group. You're going to click on that page, open it up, and you'll see up in the corner, you'll see like an email update tab. And so what you do is you click on that, then you enter your email address, and then you hit accept. And then what it'll do is anytime any of these bills move, it will automatically send you an email alert. Okay, so you'll know where it's going. So let's say House Bill 375 gets scheduled for a work session. Okay, a work session's open to the public. We can either be there in the room if we can get in the room, and so that's something to be aware of. There's going to be hearings. There's going to be ways to testify. We can do it either virtually or in person. We can also submit written testimony, which we all did. And so, okay. Yeah. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you. So let me circle back to that in just a moment. Let me finish my thought. So, one thing to think about is if, there is a way for these things to die, right? These bills die in committee. And so Jason brought up a great point. So if it starts off in the judiciary, goes to Ways and Means, there is a chance that it could die there, right? So it would have to get through both of those. And correct me if I'm wrong here, Jason. This is for my understanding. And so it would have to basically, if it goes to Ways and Means, then it would have to be passed out of Ways and Means. And I believe it goes back to the floor for a vote. And then if it passes the floor vote, which they have the numbers, okay? If they have the numbers, they have a super majority, okay? So there's really nothing our side can do, okay? So the best thing that we can do is bring facts and information to the conversation and just advocate for ourselves, okay? And so it would go to a floor vote. Once it passes the floor vote, then it goes over to the other chamber. And that's going to be, if it starts on the House side, it would go over to the Senate. If it starts in the Senate, it would go over to the House side. And so obviously, Paul has a great comment here is these bills are not going to go anywhere. Okay. So obviously they're still going to be active, until the Senate sign dies, which is, typically it's going to be the 1st of July, unless it's extended for like an emergency session. Like sometimes the governor can rule, like we did, I think was last year or the year before, they actually ruled a longer session, so they can keep the session open to keep all these bills alive. Okay. So this is just the opening salvo. Okay. So that's what I haven't been horribly concerned about. And yeah, the hearing, yes, it would have to get a hearing. So thank you, Jason. I appreciate you. Appreciate all the work that your wife's doing, and she's one of them on our side, and so I'm thankful for her. Virgil Osborne's on our side. He's out of Douglas County. There's David Brock Smith. There's guys that are up there. They're trying to do the work. They're outnumbered, and that's why they need our help, right? Because they don't have the numbers in their favor, right? So that's where it's important that we understand who our reps are, who our centers are. Let's start establishing lines of communication with them. Obviously, we're talking about lines of communication. When we pick up the phone, we call up our rep, our senator. We got to be really, really cool. Okay. So this is not the time to bring out the pitchforks. This is not the time, be very professional, because obviously the person that's going to be answering the phone up there is going to be a staffer. And so the staffer is the gatekeeper. I say this until I'm blue in the face. Really, really important is you get through that gatekeeper. That is the gatekeeper. So we be very professional with the gatekeeper. Okay. The gatekeeper is going to also forward your email to the senator or representative. So being very professional in this situation is important. I know it can be challenging. We're all very invested in our 2A rights. And so we have to think logically and rationally and use the big part of our brain, and making sure that we represent ourselves, our neighbors, our fellow gun owners in a positive way. And so now is not the time to be, saying shall not be infringed, because we could all agree that everything is an infringement, right? So that's really a dead talking point there. So we have to evolve. We have to get better at what we're doing, and we have to make sure that we're building bridges up there in Salem. I know it's a challenge. First contact could be on the phone or via email. If you feel more comfortable, you can write things out via email. The next one is going to be, maybe see if you can set up a meeting. You would have to go to Salem to meet with your senator or your representative, but that would be a good way to get a face-to-face with them. That way they know who you are. You are a constituent. You are a voter. You are a taxpayer. You're law-abiding, and so that's another way for us to have our voices be heard. And this is all part of this building those bridges. And, depending on where you're at in the state, you're going to have an easier time getting a meeting with your representative or your senator. Obviously, depending on like where I'm from with Senator Prozansky, he might take a phone call. He might respond to an email, but he's probably not going to give me a face-to-face, just because he knows who I am, what I do, and he will never see my position. And I've gone round and round with him before. And it's just, he's just so entrenched, and we have to look at how they're entrenched. They're entrenched because they're funded by Everytown, Moms Demand Action, all these outside groups that are working across the country to take away all of our rights. Okay. That it's not about safety, because it was about safety, they'd be incentivizing, concealed carry in other places. Like there's a law here. I forget the number, which one it is, because I don't have the text in front of me, but it takes away our ability to carry a gun in certain places with a CHL and prevents the affirmative defense. And so that's a bad one for all of us, so, we just have to be aware and stay up to date, make sure we're part of this process, and just get in the habit of, when it's time to clock in and send an email, is send that email. It takes 10 to 15 minutes a day. If we could dedicate that time at the end of the day to send out that information. Okay, so give me 1 second, Jason. I'll get right back to you. So if we can just block out that moment of time and get in the habit of making these emails and sending them out to our elected officials, it's going to be part of our daily process, right? And it's going to be easier for us to do so. One thing I've been using a lot is ChatGPT, so this is AI, so it's really easy. I could put in something. And if you guys want to do like a workshop on that, I know there's probably many of us that are using it. It's really, really easy that I can put in a basic brief text of what I want it to say. It'll spit out what I want it to say relatively quickly. It's a great tool, and we should be using it more and more. And so, the whole thing is just just get part of the process, and it's part of everything we do is about training, right? So when we're training, we develop repetitions create habits. Okay, so this is the same form of that training. Okay, so when we make it part of our daily routine and we write these representatives or senators, we're creating a repetition. The repetition makes it easier for us to navigate OLIS and makes us more effective going forward, as advocates for our two-way rights. And so that's the one thing that I do always advocate is where we were last year is not where we are today, and where we are today is not where we're going to be next week or 2 weeks or by the end of the session. Okay, so it's part of us is we have to get better at this. And I know it's the last thing we want to do. Last thing we want to do after working a long day, taking care of the families, is write an email to our senators and our representatives, especially on something when it comes to our two-way rights, because that's the one thing is some of these bills that they're introducing right now, they've already been challenged in court at the Supreme Court level. They've already been thrown out. And the problem with our representatives and our senators here, our elected officials here in Oregon, is they are daring us to sue them. Okay. They want lawsuits. Okay. Because they know that we do not do very well at funding lawsuits. We don't do very well at filing lawsuits. And we do not like to fight things in court the way other states do. Okay. And so they are banking on us to just cope and seethe in this situation as opposed to fighting it in court. Period, full stop. This is what they're banking on. And so if we can evolve our thought process, obviously be writing these letters, making these contacts, building these bridges up there, and then preparing for, if we have to, worst case scenario, we fund these lawsuits, and we're going to be better off. And that's the only way that we're going to stop this stuff now, so our kids don't have to fight it again in 10 to 20 years, so we can stop this stuff right now. And because we're actively engaged, this is going to help us, so that's the only thing that I'm trying to get across here is it's not fun, but it's something that's needed. And because if we don't push back, they're going to continue to restrict. They will never stop. That's the one thing about this. So you guys have to realize is they will never stop until we are completely disarmed, or everything that we do outside of our home is going to be a potential criminal penalty. Okay. They are going to focus on us because they know they can control the law abiding, because by nature, we follow the laws. Okay. So the anomaly that we have in our society is the people that break the laws, the people that ignore, the people with illegal guns, the people that are actually committing these horrible, violent crimes in our society. Those are the ones that are the anomaly because they cannot be controlled. Okay. So as somebody that carries a gun for a living every day for my personal protection, I do not like to be lumped into that group, and I'm not going to subject myself to unlawful regulation that's going to prevent me from defending myself against somebody that does not follow the law. Okay. So that being said, is there's law abiding, right? And there's responsible, right? So we have one arm of this is we're always going to be lawful. We try to be as lawful as we can, but there's so many laws that makes everything that we do potentially illegal. Then we have to switch our thought process to being responsible. Like ultimately, I'm responsible for my safety. I'm responsibility for following the laws that are in my area, in my jurisdictions, and so that's where we have to kind of look at this from a big picture, or a 30,000 foot elevation type standpoint. So I hope this makes sense. Absolutely, Ty. Really like what you do. Are you reporting from under your kitchen table again? Because I like you bring the party every time. And so we're talking about individual liberty. And I've noticed the past couple of days, okay, individual liberty only applies if you're in this country illegally and they're trying to remove you because you're a criminal. Okay. That's the only time they're in favor of individual liberty, right? So just know, okay. So when we're talking shall not be infringed, I love that. I love that sentiment. The problem is when we're talking to people that do not like our guns, when I say shall not be infringed, they shut down. It's like I'm talking to a wall at that point. So I have to get creative with the conversation, right? So the conversation is I have a civil liberty right? That's being, I have the civil liberty is I have the God-given right to self-defense, right? And so that trumps all of these potential restrictions that you are trying to impose upon me, right? It could be a bear, it could be a wolf, it could be a cougar, it could be a two-legged predator that's on drugs or mentally ill, or an actual criminal. So these are all things that we're all at risk when we're in public, because there's people that want to do bad things and they're going to do bad things. And so, regulating us, the people that are not committing crimes, is the wrong thing to do. And 100%, Brian, this is a great comment right here. So they feel safe in their seats. Okay. That is really, I mean, because you look about it, is there's been no pushback and they continue to win. Obviously, we can look back to the last 40 years of our state. Our state has continued, like I saw something about we're last in the country when it comes to education. Yet we give them all the power to make all of these decisions. Part of this is because we don't get involved. We don't run for office. If we can get more people elected, that would really help. Especially they align with our values. Um, so that's where we have to figure out how we manage and get better. And everything's about growth, personal growth. And right now there's no accountability up there. And so the only accountability that we have is when we're writing these emails or calling them, and especially if we're their constituents. And so I hope this all makes sense. Obviously, I'm not trying to rile people up. I just want people to be aware of this is kind of where we're at. This is still in the beginning phases of this. And so just be aware. Be in for the long haul. Just get signed up for, those bills that I put into the group just a little bit ago. Click on those pages, go sign up for those email alerts. You can read the text of the bill so you can see kind of what we're looking at here. And then whenever it makes any kind of changes, that's when you get the email alert, and that's when we clock in, right? So if this thing goes, let's say House Bill 3075 gets scheduled for a work session, we're going to get an email for that. We can either submit our written testimony then, or we can actually be there in the room, to kind of put a face to, law-abiding citizens and be a part of this process, right? And then depending on what happens there is where we go with the next step. But we just gotta be ready, and this is not something that I can do alone, and it's not something I want to do alone. I want to do this all together as Oregon gun owners, because that's kind of what we're trying to do here, is bring everybody together. And I know it's not fun. It's definitely not fun. But what's even less fun is losing and continuing to lose. And I think that's the hardest part, is when I see all of the stuff that's happening across the country because of my networks, and seeing some big wins and seeing some stuff getting thrown out, some pushback there. I'm a little jealous. I'm a little envious that they have these networks a little bit better developed than what we have here in Oregon. And so I long for, us having that kind of that camaraderie where we can fight this all together, right? So it's always been fighting forward. We don't want to fight from a defensive position, even though most of the time we are on our heels with these people. But if we can, get some victories, if we can shut some of this stuff down, we're gonna be in better shape. So that's kind of where I'm at. I don't want to take too much more of your time. And so if you guys, yeah, obviously I'll put all the information here in this video if you guys can. It's on YouTube, so you guys will be able to share it to your group outside of the group itself. This is a way, if you have friends in your network that want to be a part of the group, invite them to the group. This is the time to build the network. So we have the network. So when it's time to do the actual work, that we're going to be ready to do so, and we're getting closer. So just be aware, stay up to date, and get ready, and start building those fences up there, and those bridges up there in Salem. Reach out to your representatives. The bills that I did list, go ahead and if you feel comfortable, reach out to your elected official, right, and request a no vote on these bills. Okay. And So, that's the kind of the first step is just build those relationships. I swear it'll pay off. Just you got to do them right. Okay. So obviously when we're talking about our email, right? We're sending an email in the the title line of the email, you put you put the House bill, like let's say House Bill 3075, put that in the title of the email and they'd be real cool and and hopefully it'll go the way we need it to go. Let's look at this one real quick. Um Give me one. All right, Ty, thank you. For some reason I'm not seeing all of your comment, Jason. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can refresh it. Yes, Brian, the bills are going to be in the main page and you'll just see it. They were posted less than an hour ago. Um Absolutely. Jason, 100%. Customize these letters, have them be from the heart, explain who you are, make that personal connection. Okay. So, one thing super important that we understand. Okay. Um, there's something that I've learned over the years. Okay. Is when I'm speaking with somebody that does not align with me on my political spectrum. Okay. So, what I'm trying to do, right, is I'm going to obviously open up with conversation. Okay. Once I open up with conversation, they respond. Okay. It's really important when they respond is you listen. Okay. The reason we listen is we're trying to build a human connection with these people. Okay. Once we build that human connection, then we can re educate and redirect. Okay. So, these are four really important principles. Okay. So what I do is I call up my rep. Hey, this is who I am. Yada yada yada. I say my piece. The staffer would kind of say their position on it and explain that. So listen, right? Once you listen, then we go in. Obviously, be very diplomatic. We build the human connection with this person. Okay. And be very very respectful once we have this human connection, right? Because they know that they can trust us, that we're not going to go rabid canine on them, then we can educate them and redirect the conversation in a way that it's going to be beneficial to us going down the line. So that's in my elevator spiel to you. That is the easiest way for us to score these points that we need to score up there in Salem. Okay, you can practice this with family members. If there's family members that don't align with you politically, this is for you, a way for you to get your point across. And it's probably going to be more effective than saying shall not be infringed. Okay, I guarantee you say shall not be infringed, they are going to shut down, they are going to delete the email or move it to a different folder. It will never be seen, and you just wasted all of your time and your political capital. Okay, this is all political capital for us. Okay, we have to convert. So enough of my TED talk, but this is the way I roll, and that's how I'm able to have these really important conversations with people that really do not want to have these conversations. Absolutely. Jason, great comment. Okay. Shall not be French is similar to my body, my choice. Okay. Okay. And that's where, we start talking civil liberties. Civil liberties is a way that we're talking free speech. We're talking right to self defense. We're talking due process rights. We're talking the right to non self incrimination. So we're talking all these different things. We're talking civil liberties. It's so much greater than just the two-way. And if we're talking from a civil liberties standpoint, they don't have a response. Okay. Is if we look at anti-gunners, I don't want to take too much of your time. Okay. But if we look at anti-guns, they have set talking points that they adhere to, right? So they'll have A, B, C, D, E, right? If if they know that I'm going to talk shall not be infringed, that's their number A, right? Or letter A, right? If I come at it from a civil liberties standpoint, right? They do not have they just does not compute. Like their robot mind does not think about this. The emotional way they talk about things does not compute. Okay. So if we can get them off their talking points, we can control this conversation. We can win. Okay. Obviously, when we talk about winning, is we have to build the bridges up there and to have our voices be heard in a way that they're going to understand how we feel, and hopefully these things will die in committee. That's the goal. Okay. So yeah, thank you, Brian. No, it's yeah, that's something that we can start working on. I don't want to wait to the last minute. Okay, that's where I want to be forward. If we fight forward, we're doing stuff every day. We're not going to wait to the last minute where it's going to be a panic, and then they're going to get flooded with all these different emails, and things are going to get just swept under the rug. Okay, so if we're proactive with it, we're going to be more in a better spot. So other than that, I'm going to get off here. I want to, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I'll put all the information. I'll put the link to this video in the video so you guys can copy and paste it. You can share it with your groups of your people. And the goal is just bring awareness to these are the bills. So we House Bill 3075. We have Senate Bill 429. We have Senate Bill 696. We have Senate Bill 697. We have Senate Bill 698. So these are the ones that we are going to be focusing on. And absolutely, Ty, reporting live for under his kitchen table is he brings the heat, right? If we talk civil liberties, we're talking their language in a way that they can understand, right? And all of these bills that they're proposing, right, is going to affect people of different races, obviously socioeconomics. Like it's a thing that they will understand and it will resonate with them. I trust me. Okay. So we're talking about civil liberties, we're talking about people of color, we're talking about people that have lower socioeconomics. So this is a way for the light bulb to finally go on in their heads, like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Whether they listen to us and they vote accordingly, that's for another story. But this is a way for us to build that political capital with them. So thank you, Ty. I appreciate you from reporting from your kitchen table. So, okay, I'm out of here. You guys have a great day. I'll put all the information in this video. You get involved. Okay. So let's start doing the work. So thank you guys. Happy Monday. And I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good day.